where you grew up and where were you born?
I was born in a little town outside of Pievepelago in the province of Modena, which is just north of Florence. It was very small. I tell people there was only 6 houses in the whole little town. A lot of older people. I have an older sister. She's 7 years older than I, and another boy that lived in the same area who was my sister's age. So I was the baby in the area. I remember, my parents would buy pigs to grow pigs, to kill the pig, to make all of the food for the winter. I went to a one-room schoolhouse. In Italy at that time there were only 5 grades, and we had the one-room schoolhouse, and the younger kids sat in the front all the way up to 5th grade. And I went there for 2 years before I came to the United States.
Tell me about why you're...
Keep asking. You can ask the question.
Oh, tell me why your parents...
I adjusted it.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Tell me why your parents decided to come to the Chicago area. I'm assuming that there were other paesani that were in wherever it was.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
The story starts where my uncle, my father's older brother, came to the United States around 1920. He stayed here and really never went back to see his mother until after the Second World War, where my father and my uncle, they traveled to South America and worked in South America. My uncle worked in Africa, and so these people were always used to going somewhere else to make a living to support their families back home. After the Second World War, and my uncle had come back to the hometown twice, they finally decided that all of us were going to come to the United States. And my dad came in 1953 with his brother Mario. And then in August of 1954, my mother, my sister, and I came here. My mother chose to live in Chicago because this is where her family had lived. And we actually moved in with her aunt on the 900 block of Central Park in the west side of Chicago.
Can you recall what it was like to be a little girl and coming over? I'm assuming you guys went through Ellis Island.
We went through Ellis Island. It was very scary. We actually came here on what I always used to assume to be what steerage was. We were in the bottom of the boat, the cheapest fare that you can get. I'm amazed that my mother, who didn't speak a word of English, had never been anywhere but her hometown, had never traveled to any large city in Italy, that she made the trip here with 2 young girls. And I remember going through Ellis Island. I remember them checking our luggage. And then we somehow got to Union Station in New York, and we took the train to Chicago. And I do remember when the train was pulling in, I could see my father walking, because in those days the guys all wore the hats, and he always wore a suit and he always wore his hat. So it was a very, very scary experience.
What was it like actually when your father brought you to wherever you were going to live, and you saw all of these big buildings and a big city having come from this hamlet? It was
surreal. I remember always wanting to keep my mother, I wanted to be able to see my mom. So wherever she was at, I had to be able to see her. I remember the house on Central Park. It was a 3-flat, and it had an enclosed back porch. And if I was outside, I'd have to tell my mom, I have to see you, because I was very concerned that they had brought me here and they were going to leave me here and that they would disappear somewhere. So I was 7 years old. I really didn't understand what was going on.